At a small, crowded diner, Maya, a young black waitress, works tirelessly to earn enough money for her mother's medical treatment. Every day, she endures her boss's scolding and her coworkers' mockery. Until one day, a poor, shabby old man walks in. Everyone looks down on him and refuses to serve him. Only Maya treats him kindly, even cutting his toast for him when she notices his trembling hands. She has no idea that this small act of kindness will change her life forever. A few days later, she bursts into tears when she learns the old man's true identity. Before we dive deeper, tell me where you're listening from, and don't forget to subscribe so I can share more heartwarming stories with you tomorrow. The alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m. Maya Johnson's hand shot out from under the thin blanket, slapping the clock into silence. Darkness. Cold. The same routine for 4 years straight. She sat up on the mattress. No bed frame, couldn't afford one, and her feet hit the freezing floor. The radiator hadn't worked in 3 months. The landlord kept promising. Keep promising, she thought bitterly. Maya grabbed her phone. 17 missed calls, all from Mercy General Hospital. Her stomach dropped. She called back, fingers shaking. "This is Maya Johnson. My mother is Miss Johnson." The nurse's voice was flat rehearsed. "Your mother's insulin prescription needs renewal. The current dosage isn't controlling her blood sugar. Dr. Patel wants to switch to a stronger medication, but there's the matter of the outstanding balance." Maya closed her eyes. "How much?" "The new medication is $400 per month. And your current balance is $183,642. The number hit like a punch. Maya had heard it before. Every week, actually, but it never got easier. I'll figure something out. Miss Johnson, we really need." "I said I'll figure it out." Maya's voice cracked. She hung up. Silence filled the tiny studio apartment. Water stains spread across the ceiling like dark continents. Mold crept up the corners. The window wouldn't close all the way, letting in the February wind that cut through Chicago like a knife. On the wall, a framed certificate, Chicago Institute of Fashion Design. Maya Johnson, class of 2021. Next to it, sketches. Dozens of them. Evening gowns, wedding dresses, streetwear collections. All gathering dust. 4 years ago, she'd been 3 months away from her dream internship at a design house in New York. Then Mom collapsed at church. Diabetic coma, 2 weeks in ICU, bills that never stopped coming. Maya hadn't touched a sketch pad since. She pulled on her uniform black pants, worn thin at the knees, white button-up shirt with a coffee stain. She couldn't get out non-slip shoes with the sole separating from the leather. The shoes squeaked when she walked. Sandra loved to make jokes about it. The number 22 bus dropped her at Monroe and Clark at 5:47 a.m. Maya pushed through the door of Sunrise Diner just as the neon sign flickered on. The bell above the door gave its tired jingle. "Late again, Maya." Harris didn't even look up from the register. He was counting yesterday's cash, thick fingers moving fast. Harris was 56, balding, with a permanent scowl carved into his face. "I'm 3 minutes early," Maya said quietly. "Early is on time. On time is late." He finally looked at her. "And what the hell is that stain on your shirt? You look like a homeless person." Maya's jaw tightened. "I'll keep my apron on." "Damn right you will. We got standards here." Harris jabbed a finger toward the kitchen. "Coffee's not made. Cream's not out. Napkin dispenser's empty." "What do I pay you for? $9 an hour," Maya thought. "Below minimum wage because you claim tips make up the difference." "They don't." "On it," she said. Sandra breezed in at 6:15, 15 minutes late as always. She was 24, blonde, with the kind of confidence that came from never worrying about money. Her uniform was pressed. Her shoes were new. "Morning, Maya." Sandra's smile didn't reach her eyes. She dropped her purse behind the counter. "Girl, you look exhausted. Rough night. Just tired." Sandra leaned against the counter, examining her nails. "You know, my mama always says, if you smile more, life gets easier. You're always so serious. It's depressing." Maya poured coffee into the machine. "I'll work on that." "And that accent." Sandra laughed, shaking her head. "Where you from again? Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. Same difference. You sound like you're straight off a plantation." "No offense." Maya's hand froze on the coffee filter. Heat rushed to her face. "That's what I'm just saying." Sandra shrugged. "Don't be so sensitive. I'm trying to help. If you talked more normal, maybe you'd get better tips." Jake poked his head out from the kitchen. He was the cook, 40 years old, tattoos covering both arms, ex-Marine. "Sandra, shut up and do your job." Sandra rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go. Jake the hero. I mean it. Jake's voice dropped. Leave her alone. Sandra grabbed her order pad and walked away, muttering something under her breath. Jake caught Maya's eye. You good? Maya nodded. She didn't trust her voice. Don't listen to her, Jake said. She's miserable, so she makes everyone else miserable. That's how people like her work. I know. And for what it's worth, there's nothing wrong with your voice. Maya managed a small smile. Thanks, Jake. The morning rush hit at 7 a.m. Construction workers' office assistants, lawyers grabbing breakfast before court. Maya moved through the narrow aisles with practiced efficiency, balancing plates, refilling coffee, forcing her face into something resembling friendliness. Table 4, 2 men in business suits. She brought their eggs and toast. Anything else I can get you? One of them looked her up and down. Yeah, a smile. You look miserable. Maya's face went hot. I'll bring your check. Hey, don't get upset. He laughed. I'm just saying. You want a good tip, act like you're happy to be here. She walked away. In the bathroom, she locked herself in a stall and counted to 10. Her hands were shaking. You want a good tip, act like you're happy. God, she was so tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of smiling when customers talked to her like she was stupid. Tired of laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Tired of acting grateful for $3 on a $30 bill. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the hospital. Final notice payment required by March 1st or services will be discontinued. Maya stared at the message. March 1st was in 2 months. She didn't have $400. She didn't have $40. When she came back out, Sandra was at the register whispering to a customer and glancing at Maya. The customer looked over, then quickly looked away. Maya's stomach twisted. She knew that look. She'd seen it her whole life. By 2 p.m., her feet were screaming. The lunch rush had been brutal. 42 tables, tips were slow. Maya counted the crumpled bills in her apron pocket, $23. 8 hours of work, $23 in tips, $72 total for the day before taxes. She sat in the break room, head in her hands. The schedule for next week was posted on the wall. Harris had cut her hours again, 28 hours instead of 35. Not enough business, he'd said last week. Gotta make cuts somewhere. But Sandra still had 40 hours. So did the other waitress, Jenna. Maya pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. Checking account $127.43. Rent was due in 5 days. $850. She was $722 short. Her hands trembled as she opened her email. 3 messages from the landlord. Subject lines in all caps. Final warning. Eviction notice. Court date set. Hey! Maya jumped. Jake stood in the doorway holding a sandwich wrapped in foil. Made you lunch, he said. Turkey and cheese. Figured you didn't eat yet. Maya's throat tightened. You didn't have to. I know, but I did. He set it on the table. Eat. You look like you're about to pass out. Jake, Her voice cracked. She pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back tears. Hey. Jake pulled up a chair. What's going on? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. Maya took a shaky breath. I'm drowning, Jake. I can't keep doing this. What do you need? Money I can loan you. You already loaned me money last month. I can't pay you back yet. I'm not worried about it. Well, I am. Maya wiped her eyes. I owe you. I owe the hospital. I owe my landlord. I owe everyone. And I can't. I'm working as hard as I can, and it's not enough. It's never enough. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You ever think about asking Harris for a raise? Maya laughed bitterly. Are you serious? He'd fire me before he'd give me a raise, then find another job. I've tried. No one's hiring, or they are, but they want experience I don't have or degrees I can't afford. Maya stared at the sandwich. I'm stuck, Jake. This is it. This is my life. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. She stood up, grabbing her apron. I need to get back out there. Maya, thanks for the sandwich. She walked out before he could say anything else. At 3 p.m., her shift ended. Maya peeled off her apron and counted her tips one more time. $23. She folded the bills carefully and put them in her pocket. Outside, snow had started to fall. Thick, heavy flakes that stuck to everything. Maya pulled her coat tight, a thrift store find with a broken zipper, and started walking toward the bus stop. Her phone rang. The hospital again. She didn't answer. 2 blocks from the diner, she passed a bank. Through the window, she could see people inside, well-dressed, warm, comfortable, living lives she'd never have. Maya stopped walking. She stood there in the snow watching them. She thought about her sketchbook at home, the designs she'd never finish, the internship she'd never take, the life she'd never live. For the first time in a long time, Maya let herself cry. Not quiet tears, real gut-wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. She stood on the corner of Monroe in state snow falling around her and cried for everything she'd lost and everything she'd never have. A man walking past gave her a strange look and hurried away. Maya wiped her face with her sleeve and kept walking. Tomorrow she'd do it all over again. Monday morning, 7:18 a.m. Maya was refilling the sugar dispensers when the bell above the door chimed. She glanced up out of habit. An old man stood in the doorway. He was tall, or had been once, but age had bent him forward. He wore a faded brown cardigan that had seen better days, the elbows worn thin and shiny. His khaki pants were wrinkled like he'd slept in them. Scuffed brown shoes, no laces. His white hair stuck up in patches. He stood there for a moment blinking against the fluorescent lights, then shuffled toward the back of the diner. Booth 7, the corner booth by the window farthest from the door. He slid into the seat with slow, careful movements. His hands trembled as he placed them flat on the table. "Who's taking 7?" Sandra called from behind the counter. Jenna, the other waitress, looked over and made a face. "Not me. He looks off." "Maya." Sandra's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Your section, honey." Maya grabbed a menu and a glass of water. As she approached, she got a better look at him. His face was a roadmap of deep wrinkles, pale blue eyes that seemed to look through everything, a thin mouth set in a permanent downturn. He smelled faintly of mothballs and old coffee. "Good morning, sir." Maya set the water down with a smile. "My name's Maya. Can I start you with some coffee?" The old man's eyes flicked up to her face for half a second, then back down to the table. He gave the smallest nod. "Cream and sugar." Another tiny nod. "I'll be right back with that." In the kitchen, Harris was barking orders at Jake. "2 scrambles, 1 over easy. Hash browns on 3. Maya, what are you doing standing there?" "Getting coffee for booth 7. Harris glanced out through the window. "That old guy, great. Just great." "What?" "He was in here last month, sat for 2 hours nursing 1 cup of coffee. Didn't tip, didn't talk, just sat there staring out the window like a zombie." Harris pointed at her with a spatula. "Don't waste time on him. Get his order, bring his food, move on." Maya poured the coffee. "Got it. And make sure he pays before he leaves." "I don't trust him." When Maya brought the coffee, the old man was staring out the window. His hands were still flat on the table, trembling slightly. "Here you go, sir." She set down the cup and a small pitcher of cream. "Have you had a chance to look at the menu?" Silence. "Sir." His eyes moved to the menu, then back to the window. He raised one shaking hand and pointed at the breakfast special listed on the board. "Eggs and toast." A nod. "How do you like your eggs?" He held up 2 fingers. "Scrambled." A nod. "Perfect. I'll get that right in for you." As Maya turned to leave, she noticed his hands again. The tremor was worse when he tried to pick up the coffee cup. He wrapped both hands around it, lifted it slowly to his lips, and took a careful sip. Something about the concentrated effort, the way he had to focus on such a simple action, made Maya's chest tighten. He or Sandra leaned against the counter, filing her nails. "Breakfast special. Bet you he doesn't tip." Sandra blew on her nails. "Old guys like that never do. They come in here thinking we owe them something just for showing up. It's pathetic." Jenna walked past carrying a tray. "Is he still here? God, he gives me the creeps." "Right." Sandra lowered her voice, but not much. "He's probably homeless. You can tell by the clothes. Probably hasn't showered in a week." "Sandra," Maya started. "What I'm just saying." Sandra looked at her. "You're too nice, Maya. People like that take advantage of people like you." Jake slid the breakfast plate onto the counter. "Order up for 7." Maya grabbed it and headed back. The old man was still staring out the window. Maya set the plate down gently. "Here you are. 2 scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and hash browns. Can I get you anything else?" No response. "Sir." He looked down at the plate, then at the butter knife next to it. His hand reached out, shaking badly, and picked up the knife. He pressed it against the toast. The knife slipped. His hand jerked. The toast slid across the plate. He tried again. Same result. Maya watched him struggle for 3 attempts before she couldn't stand it anymore. "May I?" She reached for the knife. The old man's eyes met hers for the first time. Really met hers. There was something in them, surprise, maybe, or shame. He hesitated, then nodded. Maya picked up the knife and cut the toast into 4 even squares. Not triangles like most people preferred. Squares. Smaller. Easier to manage. "There you go." she said softly. The old man stared at the plate, then at Maya. His thin lips pressed together, and for a moment she thought he might speak. Instead, he gave a single sharp nod. "Enjoy your breakfast, sir." Back at the counter, Sandra was watching with an amused smirk. "Did you just cut his food for him? What is he, 5 years old?" "He needed help," Maya said. "Girl, you are way too sweet for this job." Sandra shook her head. "That's not your responsibility. If he can't cut his own toast, he shouldn't be eating out. His hands shake." "So, not your problem." Maya bit back a response and turned away. Through the window to the kitchen, she could see Jake giving her a thumbs up. The old man ate slowly, methodically. Each piece of toast required the same careful attention. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup every time he drank. He never looked at Maya again, never said a word. When he finished, he placed exact change on the table, $7.50, and stood up. His movements were stiff, like everything hurt. He shuffled toward the door. "Hey!" Harris called after him. "You gonna leave a tip or what?" The old man didn't turn around. The bell chimed as he left. Harris walked over to booth 7 and scooped up the money. $7.50, exact change, no tip. "Told you, Maya." Maya looked at the empty booth, at the clean plate, at the coffee cup drained to the last drop. She thought about his hands, about the concentrated effort it took just to eat breakfast, about the look in his eyes when she'd offered to help. "He'll be back," Harris said, pocketing the money. "Guys like that always come back. And when he does, don't waste your time cutting his damn food. We're not a nursing home." Tuesday morning, 7:20 a.m. exactly. The bell chimed. The old man shuffled in and headed straight for booth 7. Sandra groaned. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." "I'll take him," Maya said. "Be my guest." Sandra waved her hand. "Have fun with Grandpa." Maya grabbed the coffee pot. When she reached the booth, the old man was already sitting in the same spot staring out the window. "Good morning, sir." Maya poured his coffee without asking. "Breakfast special again?" A nod. "I'll get that right in." She brought the eggs and toast. Before setting down the plate, she picked up the butter knife. "May I?" The old man looked at her. Something shifted in his expression, maybe relief, maybe gratitude. He nodded. Maya cut the toast into 4 squares, set the plate down, and stepped back. "Enjoy." For the first time, the old man's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Wednesday, 7:20 a.m., same routine. Thursday, same time, same booth. By Friday, Maya had it down to a system. She'd pour his coffee before he even sat down. She'd put in his order without asking, and she'd cut his toast into 4 squares before setting down the plate. The old man never spoke, never smiled, never tipped more than exact change. But every morning when Maya cut his toast, his pale blue eyes would meet hers for just a second, and in that second she could see it, a flash of something warm, something human. "You're wasting your energy," Sandra said on Friday afternoon. "He's never going to tip you, Maya. He's never even going to say thank you." "I know." "Then why do you keep doing it?" Maya thought about that, about why she kept smiling at someone who didn't smile back, about why she kept helping someone who couldn't or wouldn't say thank you. "Because he needs it," she said finally. Sandra rolled her eyes. "You're too soft. That's your problem." Maybe it was. Maybe Sandra was right. Maybe Maya was wasting her time on someone who'd never appreciate it. But when she got home that night, exhausted and broke and ready to collapse, she thought about the old man in booth 7, about his trembling hands, about the way he looked at her when she cut his toast. And for reasons she couldn't fully explain, those 10 minutes every morning felt like the only part of her day that mattered. Week 2 became week 3. Week 3 became a month. Every morning at 7:20 a.m., the old man shuffled through the door of Sunrise Diner and made his way to booth 7. And every morning, Maya was ready. She started arriving 10 minutes early, 5:50 a.m. instead of 6:00. Harris noticed but didn't say anything. He was just glad someone was opening on time for once. Maya used those extra minutes to brew a fresh pot of coffee, not the burned stuff that had been sitting since yesterday. Fresh grounds, hot water, the good filters. She'd pour the first cup and set it at booth 7 before the old man even arrived. "You know he can't tell the difference, right?" Sandra said one morning, watching Maya fuss over the coffee pot. "Maybe not," Maya said, "but I can." By the second month, the routine had become precise. Automatic. 7:18 a.m. fresh coffee brewing. 7:19 a.m. Maya would wipe down booth 7. Not just a quick pass, but a thorough cleaning. She'd refold the napkins into neat triangles and make sure the salt and pepper shakers were full. 7:20 a.m., the bell would chime. The old man would enter. 7:21 a.m., Maya would set down his coffee, black steaming hot, with a small dish of butter on the side. Not the butter from the communal container that everyone else got. A fresh pat on a clean dish. 7:23 a.m. breakfast special would come out. Maya would cut the toast into 4 perfect squares before placing the plate in front of him. The old man never asked for any of this, never indicated he expected it, but Maya did it anyway. And somewhere around week 5, she started talking to him. Morning, Mr. Thomas. She'd learned his name from the credit card receipt he'd left once. Cold out there today. Isn't it supposed to snow again tonight? Silence. My bus was late this morning. Driver said there was an accident on State Street. Hope everyone's okay. The old man chewed his toast slowly, staring out the window. My mama called yesterday. She's doing a little better. Still in the hospital, but the doctors adjusted her medication. They gave us another 60 days before. Maya's voice caught. She cleared her throat. Before they have to make decisions about her care. Nothing. Maya didn't mind. There was something peaceful about talking to someone who wouldn't interrupt, wouldn't judge, wouldn't offer unwanted advice. Mr. Thomas just listened, or at least he didn't actively ignore her. I used to draw, she said one morning, wiping down the table next to his. Fashion designs, wedding dresses mostly. I had this whole portfolio. Was going to take it to New York, show it to the big houses. She laughed softly. Seems like a lifetime ago now. For the first time, Mr. Thomas turned his head. Not much, just a slight movement, but his eyes found hers for a moment before returning to the window. Maya's breath caught. Anyway, let me know if you need anything else. The money situation hadn't gotten better. Week 3, Maya's landlord had threatened eviction. She'd scraped together enough for half the rent by borrowing from Jake $400 he'd given her without hesitation, waving away her protests about paying him back. Just get it to me when you can, he'd said. Your mama needs you. That's what matters. Maya had cried in the bathroom after that conversation. The hospital had agreed to a 60-day extension after she'd paid $500 down money she'd gotten by selling her laptop, her nice winter coat, and the gold bracelet her grandmother had given her. It hurt. God, it hurt. But her mother was alive, and that was what counted. She still owed $183,000. The number haunted her dreams. But every morning at 7:20, when Mr. Thomas shuffled through that door, Maya pushed the fear down and smiled. Because for 10 minutes, she could pretend the world wasn't crushing her. Month 2 brought the first real change. Maya set down his coffee one Tuesday morning. Good morning, Mr. Thomas. He looked up, met her eyes, and gave a deliberate nod. Not the vague half nod she'd gotten before. A real acknowledgement. You're welcome, Maya said, smiling. From the counter, Sandra snorted. Oh my God, did he just nod at you? That's so sad, Maya. That's the highlight of your day. Leave her alone, Jenna said, surprising everyone, even Sandra. What, I'm just being mean. You're being mean. Jenna didn't look up from the coffee she was pouring. Let her be nice to the old man. It's not hurting anybody. Sandra's mouth fell open, then snapped shut. She grabbed her order pad and stalked off. Jake leaned out from the kitchen. Everything okay out there? Fine, Maya called back. Jake gave her a thumbs up and disappeared back into the kitchen. A minute later, he slid an extra piece of bacon onto Mr. Thomas's plate, his quiet way of showing support. Maya caught his eye through the window and mouthed, "Thank you." Jake just winked. By month 3, the small changes accumulated. Mr. Thomas started looking at her when she approached, not just glancing, actually looking. His pale blue eyes would track her movement across the diner. One morning in late April, Maya set down his plate and turned to leave. "Thank you." The words were so quiet, Maya almost missed them. She spun around. Mr. Thomas was looking down at his plate, but his lips had moved. She was sure of it. Did you? Maya's voice came out as a whisper. Did you just say something? The old man picked up his fork, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. You're welcome, Mr. Thomas. The tips changed too. For 3 months, he'd left exact change, $7.50, never a penny more. Then one morning in April, Maya cleared his plate and found $8 on the table, 50 cents, 50 cents extra. Hey, Harris, Sandra called out laughing. Maya's boyfriend finally gave her a tip. 50 whole cents. Better put that toward your retirement fund, girl. Maya ignored her. She picked up the quarters carefully like they were made of gold. and slipped them into her apron pocket. That 50 cents felt more valuable than the $20 bills other customers sometimes left because it meant something. It meant Mr. Thomas saw her, appreciated her, cared enough to give what little he had. Jake caught her eye from the kitchen and smiled. He understood. He always did. But not everyone was happy about the ritual. "I don't get it," Harris said one afternoon, arms crossed, as he watched Maya wipe down booth 7 for the 3rd time that week. "You spend more time on that old man than any paying customer. What's the point?" "He is a paying customer." "Barely. And he's taking up valuable real estate." Harris gestured at the booth. "That's a 4-top. I could fit a family there. Instead, it's just him nursing 1 cup of coffee for an hour. He's not bothering anyone." "He's bothering me." Harris narrowed his eyes. "Don't get too attached, Maya. Guys like that don't stick around. One day he'll stop coming, and you'll have wasted all this energy for nothing." Maya kept wiping. "Maybe, but until then, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing." Harris threw up his hands. "Fine. Waste your time. But don't come crying to me when he croaks and you realize you got nothing to show for it. And don't expect any big tips from him. Old man like that is probably living on Social Security. He's got nothing." The worst came from Sandra. By month 3, Sandra had developed an entire routine around mocking Maya's relationship with Mr. Thomas. She'd imitate Maya's voice when she greeted him. She'd make exaggerated bowing motions whenever Maya walked past with his coffee. She'd loudly announce, "The Queen is serving her king," whenever Maya approached booth 7. One morning, Sandra took it too far. Maya was at booth 7 refilling Mr. Thomas's coffee when Sandra walked past carrying a tray. "You know, Mr. Thomas," Sandra said loud enough for half the diner to hear, "you're so lucky to have Maya. She treats you better than she treats herself. It's almost sad, really, like she's got nothing else going on in her life." Maya's hand froze on the coffee pot. Mr. Thomas looked up at Sandra. His pale blue eyes went hard. "What?" Sandra laughed. "I'm just stating facts. Maya's got this whole savior complex thing going on. It's sweet, but kind of pathetic." "Sandra," Maya's voice was low, "stop. I'm trying to help you. You're wasting your time on someone who can't even hold a conversation. What are you getting out of this 50-cent tips?" The diner had gone quiet. Other customers were staring. Maya set down the coffee pot. Her hands were shaking. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? You come in early. You stay late. You fuss over this old man like he's royalty. For what? He doesn't even thank you most of the time." "He thanked me today." "Oh, wow. 1 thank you in 3 months. What an accomplishment." Maya's throat tightened. Heat rushed to her face. She wanted to scream, to defend herself, to explain that those 10 minutes with Mr. Thomas were the only part of her day that felt real, that felt like it mattered. "That's enough." The voice was rough, gravelly, barely above a whisper, but it came from Mr. Thomas. Everyone turned. The old man was looking directly at Sandra, his expression thunderous. "She's kind," he said slowly, each word an effort. "You are not." Sandra's face went red. "Excuse me." Mr. Thomas didn't repeat himself. He picked up his fork and went back to his eggs. Sandra stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then she spun around and marched to the back. The diner stayed quiet for another beat. Then conversations slowly resumed. Maya couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Mr. Thomas had spoken. For her. To defend her. From the kitchen window, Jake was grinning and giving her 2 thumbs up. Maya looked down at Mr. Thomas. He was focused on his plate, but his hands were steadier than usual. "Thank you," Maya whispered. Mr. Thomas didn't look up, but he nodded. And this time Maya was certain, absolutely certain, that the corner of his mouth lifted into the smallest smile. Tuesday morning started wrong. Maya knew it the moment she woke up. Rain hammered against her window, the kind of cold, angry rain that soaked through everything. The bus was late. Her umbrella broke on the walk from the stop. By the time she pushed through the door of Sunrise Diner, she was drenched. "You're late," Harris called from behind the register. Maya checked the clock. 5:58 a.m. "I'm 2 minutes early." "Doesn't matter. You look like a drowned rat. Go dry off before customers see you." She didn't have time. She had to get Mr. Thomas's coffee ready. Maya rushed through her routine. Fresh pot brewing booth 7 wiped down napkins folded. She kept glancing at the clock. 7:15, 7:18, 7:19. At 7:20, she poured the coffee and set it at booth 7. The bell didn't chime. Maya stared at the door. Mr. Thomas was never late, not once in 3 months. 7:25. Still, nothing. Your boyfriend stand you up. Sandra smirked as she tied her apron. Maya ignored her. She busied herself refilling sugar dispensers, but her eyes kept darting to the door. 7:30, empty booth, cold coffee. Something was wrong. Maya could feel it in her chest, a tight, anxious knot. Jake, she leaned into the kitchen. Has Mr. Thomas ever been late before? Jake looked up from the grill. Not that I've seen. Why? He's not here. Maybe the rain slowed him down. Old guy like that probably doesn't move too fast in bad weather. That made sense. It had to make sense. But the knot in Maya's chest didn't loosen. 7:45. The breakfast rush started. Maya moved through her section on autopilot, taking orders, delivering food, refilling coffee. But every few seconds, her eyes went to the door. Nothing. 8:00. The rain got worse. Wind rattled the windows. Customers shook off umbrellas and complained about the weather. Maya's hands trembled as she poured coffee for table 3. Mr. Thomas should have been here 40 minutes ago. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he'd slipped on the wet sidewalk. Maybe stop staring at the door and do your job. Harris snapped as he walked past. Maya blinked. She'd been standing frozen in the middle of the aisle, coffee pot in hand. Sorry. She went back to work, but the anxiety was building, pressing against her ribs, making it hard to breathe. 8:15. Still nothing. 8:30. Maya couldn't take it anymore. She found Harris at the register. Do we have Mr. Thomas's phone number from his credit card receipt or something? Harris looked at her like she'd grown a second head. What? Mr. Thomas. The man who sits in booth 7 every morning. Do we have his contact information? Why the hell would we have that? I don't know. He's never been late. I'm worried something might have happened. Harris stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Jesus Christ, Maya. He's an old man who eats breakfast here. That's it. We don't have his phone number. We're not his family. I know, but nothing. He probably woke up and decided he didn't feel like coming out in the rain. It happens. Let it go. Maya's throat tightened. Can't we? No, we can't. Harris pointed toward the dining area. Table 6 needs their check. Do your job. Maya walked away, blinking back tears. Harris was probably right. Mr. Thomas just didn't want to come out in the storm. He was fine. He had to be fine. But she didn't believe it. 8:47 a.m. The bell above the door chimed. Maya's head snapped up, hope flaring in her chest. 4 men stepped inside. Not Mr. Thomas. 4 massive men in identical black suits, black ties, black sunglasses. They moved with the kind of synchronized precision that made everyone in the diner stop talking. One positioned himself by the door, another by the counter. The other 2 flanked the entrance, hands clasped in front of them, scanning the room like Secret Service agents. The diner went silent. Then a 5th person walked in. He was in his mid-50s, tall and lean, with silver hair combed back perfectly. He wore a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than Maya made in 6 months. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. He carried a leather briefcase that looked like it belonged in a movie about lawyers and million-dollar deals. His eyes swept the diner with cold efficiency. Holy shit, someone whispered. Harris came out from behind the register, his face pale. Can I help you, gentlemen? The man in the gray suit ignored him. His gaze moved across the dining area, methodical and calculating, until it landed on Maya. He walked toward her. The 2 bodyguards followed. Maya felt her legs go weak. The coffee pot in her hand started to shake. What was happening? Was she in trouble? Had she done something wrong? Was this about her mother's hospital bills? Did they send lawyers and bodyguards to collect debts? Now, the man stopped directly in front of her. Up close, his face was all sharp angles and authority. His eyes were steel gray and unreadable. Are you Miss Maya Johnson? Maya's mouth went dry. She nodded. Miss Maya Johnson, who works at this establishment. Another nod. She couldn't find her voice. The man reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. He opened it, glanced at a document, then looked back at her. My name is Marcus Sterling. I'm a senior partner at Sterling & Associates law firm. His voice was deep, precise, every word carefully measured. I was the personal attorney for Mr. William Thomas. Maya's heart stopped. The entire diner was staring now. Sandra stood frozen behind the counter, mouth hanging open. Jake had come out of the kitchen, spatula still in hand. Even the customers had stopped eating. Marcus Sterling's expression softened just slightly. Mr. Thomas passed away peacefully in his sleep last night. I'm very sorry for your loss. The coffee pot slipped from Maya's hand. It shattered on the floor, hot coffee spraying across the linoleum. Maya didn't notice. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room tilted sideways. "No," she whispered. "No, he was fine. He was just here yesterday. He was fine." "I understand this is difficult." "You're wrong." Maya's voice cracked. "You have the wrong person. Mr. Thomas, he's probably just sick. He's at home. He's—" "Miss Johnson." Marcus Sterling's voice was gentle but firm. "Mr. Thomas's housekeeper found him this morning. The medical examiner confirmed the time of death was approximately 2 a.m. I assure you there is no mistake." Maya's knees buckled. One of the bodyguards moved forward, but she caught herself on the counter. Mr. Thomas was dead. The old man who'd sat in booth 7 every morning for 3 months, who'd let her talk to him about her dreams and her fears, who'd defended her against Sandra, who'd smiled at her, actually smiled just yesterday morning. Gone. "Why are you here?" Maya heard herself ask. Her voice sounded far away. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Mr. Thomas's will contains specific instructions regarding you." Marcus Sterling closed the folder. "His estate must be settled immediately, and you are named as a primary beneficiary." The words didn't make sense. They were in English, but they might as well have been another language. "I don't—" "What?" "Mr. Thomas left you something, Miss Johnson, something significant." Marcus Sterling glanced around the diner at the gaping customers, at Harris's shocked face, at Sandra's expression of pure disbelief. "This is not an appropriate venue for this discussion. I have a car waiting outside. If you would gather your things, we need to go to my office immediately." "I'm working. I can't just—" "Yes, you can." Harris had found his voice. He was staring at Maya like he'd never seen her before. "Go. Sandra can cover your tables." Sandra didn't argue. She just stood there staring. Maya looked down at her uniform, still damp from the rain. Coffee splattered across her shoes. "I'm not dressed for—" "That's perfectly fine." Marcus Sterling gestured toward the door. "Please, Miss Johnson, time is of the essence. There are other parties involved who are waiting." One of the bodyguards stepped forward and opened the door. Through the rain-streaked window, Maya could see a black town car idling at the curb. It looked like something diplomats drove, something from a completely different world. She looked back at booth 7, at the cold cup of coffee still sitting on the table, at the empty seat where Mr. Thomas should have been. Her eyes filled with tears. "Miss Johnson," Marcus Sterling's voice was patient. "We really must go." Maya untied her apron with shaking hands. She grabbed her bag from the break room. Her mind was blank, completely empty, except for one thought repeating over and over, "Mr. Thomas is dead. Mr. Thomas is dead. Mr. Thomas is dead." As she walked toward the door, flanked by bodyguards like she was someone important, she heard Sandra whisper to Jenna, "What the hell just happened?" Maya wondered the same thing. The bodyguard held an umbrella over her head as they walked to the car. Another opened the door. The interior was all leather and wood-warm and dry, smelling like money. Marcus Sterling slid in beside her. The door closed with a heavy final thunk. Through the tinted window, Maya could see the diner, could see Harris and Sandra and Jake pressed against the glass, watching her drive away. The car pulled into traffic. Maya sat rigid in the leather seat, hands clenched in her lap, still wearing her coffee-stained uniform. "Where are we going?" she whispered. Marcus Sterling was already opening his briefcase, pulling out more documents. "To read Mr. Thomas's will," he said, "and to change your life." The elevator climbed so fast, Maya's ears popped. She watched the numbers tick upward on the digital display. 25, 30, 35. The elevator was all glass and chrome, so spotless she could see her reflection. Coffee-stained uniform, wet hair plastered to her head, cheap shoes with the sole coming apart. She looked like she'd stumbled into the wrong building. The doors slid open with a quiet whisper. Maya stepped out into a reception area that belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Chicago. The floors were polished marble, cream-colored with gold veins running through it. Abstract paintings hung on the walls, the kind with splashes of color that probably cost more than her entire life. Behind a massive desk sat a receptionist who looked like a model. Perfect hair, perfect makeup. She glanced at Maya, and her expression flickered surprise, then carefully masked disdain. "Mr. Sterling," she said smoothly, "the Thomas family is waiting in conference room A." "Thank you, Rachel." Marcus gestured for Maya to follow him. Maya's shoes squeaked on the marble. The sound echoed through the hushed space. She wanted to die. They walked down a long hallway lined with more expensive art. Through open doorways, Maya glimpsed offices with mahogany furniture and views of the city. Everyone they passed wore suits that cost more than her rent. And here she was in her Sunrise Diner uniform dripping rainwater on their perfect floors. Marcus stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. He turned to Maya, his expression serious. "Before we go in, Miss Johnson, I need you to understand something. The people in this room are not happy about Mr. Thomas's final wishes. They will likely be hostile. Do not engage with them. Do not respond to provocations. Let me handle everything. Do you understand?" Maya's stomach twisted into knots. "What did he leave me?" "You'll find out momentarily." Marcus opened the door. "Remember, stay calm. Say nothing unless I tell you to." The conference room was enormous. A long table made of dark wood dominated the center, surrounded by leather chairs. More floor-to-ceiling windows. More expensive art. The table could easily seat 20 people. Only 2 were sitting there. The woman was around 60, impeccably dressed in a black designer dress with pearls at her throat. Her hair was silver blonde, styled in a perfect bob. Her makeup was flawless. She sat with her spine straight, hands folded on the table, radiating cold disapproval. The man next to her was younger, early 30s, wearing a navy Armani suit that fit him like it had been sewn onto his body. His hair was dark and styled with too much gel. He had the kind of face that would have been handsome if not for the sneer twisting his mouth. Both of them looked at Maya like she was something stuck to the bottom of their shoe. "This is her." The man's voice dripped with contempt. "This is who we've been waiting for." "Brandon, please." The woman's voice was controlled but ice cold. "Let Marcus speak." Marcus gestured to a chair far down the table from the other 2. "Miss Johnson, please sit." Maya walked to the chair on shaking legs. The leather squeaked when she sat down. She folded her hands in her lap, trying not to look at the 2 people staring at her. Marcus took his place at the head of the table and opened his briefcase. He pulled out a thick document bound in leather. "Now that all parties mentioned in Mr. William Thomas's will are present, we can proceed." He looked at Maya. "Miss Johnson, allow me to introduce Mrs. Diana Thomas, Mr. Thomas's daughter-in-law, and Mr. Brandon Thomas, his grandson." Brandon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Let's skip the introductions and get to the part where you explain what the hell a waitress is doing at my grandfather's will reading." "Brandon," Diana started. "No, I'm serious." Brandon jabbed a finger toward Maya. "Who is she? Did she work at the nursing home, clean his apartment? What?" "I served him breakfast," Maya said quietly before she could stop herself. Brandon stared at her. Then he started laughing. "You're kidding. You're actually kidding. Grandfather left something to a waitress. What did you give him extra bacon?" "Mr. Thomas," Marcus said sharply, "if you cannot conduct yourself appropriately, I will have you removed from this room." Brandon's smile vanished. "You can't do that. I'm family. And this is my office. Sit down and be quiet or leave." Brandon glanced at his mother. Diana gave a tiny nod. He sat back, jaw clenched, glaring at Maya like she'd personally insulted him. Marcus put on reading glasses and opened the will. "Let's begin. The last will and testament of William Arthur Thomas executed on February 14th of this year." 3 months ago, Brandon muttered, right around the time his mind started going. Marcus ignored him. He began reading in a flat professional tone. Most of it was legal language Maya couldn't follow. Words like executor and fiduciary and pursuant to. Her mind kept drifting. Why was she here? What could Mr. Thomas possibly have left her to various charitable organizations as detailed in Appendix C, a sum totaling $2 million? Maya's head snapped up. $2 million to charity. How much money had Mr. Thomas had? "To my daughter-in-law, Diana Marie Thomas, I leave the sum of $8 million from the Thomas Family Trust, as stipulated in the prenuptial agreement signed at her marriage to my late son." Diana's expression didn't change. She simply nodded like $8 million was exactly what she'd expected. "To my grandson, Brandon William Thomas, I leave the sum of $8 million from the Thomas Family Trust held in accordance with the family trust documents." Brandon's face turned red. $8 million, that's it." "Brandon," Diana hissed, "the company is worth billions, mother, billions. And he's giving us $8 million each like we're charity cases." Marcus continued reading as if Brandon hadn't spoken. "All remaining personal assets, properties, and holdings are to be distributed as follows." He paused, looked directly at Maya. "To Miss Maya Johnson of 1847 South Ashland Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, I leave the following: first, the sum of $200,000 to be transferred immediately to her personal banking account, free and clear of all taxes and encumbrances. The room tilted. $200,000. $200,000. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The number was too big, too impossible. That would pay off her mother's medical bills, pay her rent for years, let her go back to school, let her live. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Brandon's voice cut through her shock. Mr. Thomas language, no. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. He's leaving $200,000 to a stranger, someone he knew for a few months. Marcus's voice remained steady. Additionally, I leave to Miss Maya Johnson the property and business known as Sunrise Diner, located at 847 West Monroe Street, Chicago, including the building land and all associated assets. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Maya's ears were ringing. She must have heard wrong. She must have. The property was purchased by Mr. Thomas 7 months ago through a private holding company for $6.5 million. It is now valued at approximately $6.8 million, including the land. $6.8 million? The diner. Mr. Thomas owned the diner, and he'd left it to her. What? Brandon exploded out of his chair. He bought a fucking diner and left it to her. Brandon, sit down. Are you out of your mind? Brandon whirled on Marcus. This will is invalid. It has to be. Grandfather was clearly not in his right mind. He was senile, delusional. We'll contest this. You may certainly try. Marcus's voice was ice. Mr. Thomas anticipated that response. He was evaluated by 3 separate psychiatrists in the week before his death. All 3 found him to be of sound mind and clear judgment. Their reports are attached to the will. Additionally, he recorded a video statement explaining his reasoning. Would you like to see it? Brandon's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Diana stood slowly. Her movements were controlled, precise, but Maya could see rage simmering beneath the surface. She walked down the length of the table toward Maya. Maya's heart hammered. She wanted to run, wanted to disappear. Diana stopped directly in front of her. Up close, Maya could see the woman's face was tight, with barely contained fury. What did you do? Diana's voice was soft. Dangerous. What did you do to him? I didn't. Did you seduce him? Is that it? Diana leaned closer. An old man, lonely, vulnerable. Did you flirt with him, touch him, make him promises? No. Maya's voice came out as a squeak. I just served him breakfast. Liar. Diana's eyes were cold, dead. You manipulated him. You saw a wealthy old man and you took advantage. You're a gold digger, a con artist. Mrs. Thomas, that's enough. Marcus stood. Please return to your seat. She doesn't deserve a penny of his money. Not 1 penny. Diana's voice rose. We are his family. We're his blood. And he gives millions to some. She looked Maya up and down, taking in the uniform, the wet hair, the cheap shoes. Some nobody, Diana finished. Some worthless nobody who probably doesn't even know how to read a bank statement. Tears burned in Maya's eyes. She wanted to defend herself, wanted to scream that she'd been kind to Mr. Thomas when no one else had even looked at him, that she'd cared about him, my grandfather was worth over $3 billion. Brandon had found his voice again. He was staring at Maya with pure hatred. And you just stole $7 million of it. You think you're going to get away with this? You think we're just going to let some ghetto waitress walk away with our family's money? The word hit Maya like a slap. Ghetto. He might as well have said the other word, the one people like him had been calling people like her for centuries. That is enough. Marcus's voice cracked like a whip. Both of you sit down. Now. Diana slowly walked back to her seat. Brandon didn't move, still glaring at Maya. The will is legal and binding, Marcus continued. It was properly executed. Mr. Thomas was of sound mind. Miss Johnson had no knowledge of these provisions before today. I can verify that personally. If you choose to contest the will, you will lose, and it will cost you considerably in legal fees. We'll see about that, Brandon said coldly. He pointed at Maya. Enjoy it while you can, sweetheart, because I'm going to make your life hell. I'm going to dig into every corner of your pathetic existence. I'm going to find out every dirty secret, every mistake, every get out. Marcus's voice was deadly quiet. Get out of my office, both of you. Diana stood with dignity. Brandon grabbed his phone off the table, still glaring daggers at Maya. This isn't over, he said. Then they were gone. The door slammed behind them. Maya sat frozen in the leather chair. Her entire body was shaking. She couldn't catch her breath. $7 million. Mr. Thomas had left her $7 million, and his family wanted to destroy her for it. Miss Johnson, Marcus's voice was gentle now. I know this is overwhelming. Would you like some water? Maya looked down at her hands. They were trembling so badly she had to grip the edge of the table to hold them still. Why? She whispered. Why did he do this? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small envelope. He left you a letter, he said. Perhaps that will explain. He slid the envelope across the table. Maya stared at it. Her name was written on the front in shaky handwriting. Maya, just her name, in Mr. Thomas's hand. She picked it up with trembling fingers and carefully tore it open. The letter was short, written in the same shaky handwriting Maya had seen on the 50-cent tips. Dear Maya, if you're reading this, then I am gone, and you have met my family. I apologize for that. They are not kind people. You are probably confused, probably scared. That's understandable. What I have left you will change your life, but it also comes with a burden, a responsibility. There are things you need to understand, things I could never tell you while I was alive. Go to my apartment. Marcus has the address. In my study, there is a wall I have kept locked for 15 years. The key is enclosed with this letter. Look at the wall, Maya. Look at her face. Then you'll understand why I chose you. You have a good heart. Don't let them take that from you. William Maya's hands trembled as she pulled a small brass key from the envelope. It was old tarnished, attached to a tag with an address written in careful script. 1100 Lakeshore Drive, Penthouse B. She looked up at Marcus. He wants me to go to his apartment. Yes, I was instructed to take you there immediately after the will reading. Marcus closed his briefcase. The property belongs to you now, incidentally. It's valued at approximately $4.2 million. Maya's brain had stopped processing numbers. 4 million, 7 million, 200,000. They were just sounds now, meaningless. Can we go? She whispered. Please. The building on Lakeshore Drive was the kind of place Maya had only seen in movies. A doorman in a uniform opened the car door for her. The lobby had marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. An elevator required a key just to access the penthouse level. Marcus used a key from his briefcase. The elevator climbed smoothly, silently. Mr. Thomas was an intensely private man, Marcus said as they rose. He conducted all his business from his corporate office downtown. But this apartment, this was his sanctuary. No one has been inside in over a decade. Not his family, not his staff. No one. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. Maya stepped out and forgot how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. The water stretched out gray and endless under the cloudy sky. The apartment was massive, open, elegant, filled with antiques and art that even Maya with no training could tell was priceless. A Monet hung over the fireplace. A Degas sculpture sat on a pedestal. Every piece of furniture looked like it belonged in a palace. But despite all the beauty, the space felt empty, cold, like a museum where no one lived. The study is this way, Marcus said. He led her down a long hallway, lined with more art. At the end was a heavy oak door with an old-fashioned lock. Marcus gestured to it. This is as far as I go. Mr. Thomas was very clear, you go in alone. Maya's heart hammered as she approached the door. The brass key felt heavy in her hand. She slid it into the lock. It turned with a click that echoed down the hallway. The door swung open. The study was different from the rest of the apartment. Where everything else was pristine and untouched, this room was lived in. A worn leather chair sat by the window. Books were stacked everywhere on shelves on the desk on the floor. The air smelled of old paper and pipe tobacco. But what dominated the room was the wall. The entire back wall, floor to ceiling, was covered in photographs, newspaper clippings, documents, and handwritten notes. Red string connected different pieces, creating a web of connections that looked like something from a detective movie. Maya stepped closer, her breath catching. At the center of the wall was a photograph. A woman, black, beautiful, maybe 30 years old, caught mid-laugh, her head thrown back, joy radiating from her face. She wore a simple dress and an apron, standing in front of a small restaurant. The sign above her head read, Grace's Place. Maya's hand went to her mouth. The woman looked like her. Not exactly, but the smile, the warmth in her eyes, the way she held herself proud despite the simple clothes, despite the small restaurant. Maya could have been looking at her own mother or her grandmother. Pinned next to the photograph was a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1985. New restaurant brings soul food to Lincoln Park. Grace Williams, 28, opened Grace's Place last month, serving traditional Southern cooking with a modern twist. I want people to feel at home, Williams said, like they're sitting at their mama's table. Maya's eyes moved across the wall, following the web of connections. More photographs of Grace. Grace cooking. Grace serving customers. Grace standing with a tall white man in a suit, young handsome, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. William Thomas. There were love letters, dozens of them, written in William's careful handwriting. My dearest Grace, I don't care what they say. I don't care what they think. You are the only real thing in my life. Next to the letters were other documents, legal papers, a marriage certificate, but not to Grace, to Diana Blackwell, dated 1984. A handwritten note in William's shaky writing, the worst mistake of my life. Maya kept reading, piecing together the story from the fragments on the wall. William and Grace had met in 1982. He was 26, heir to a manufacturing fortune. She was 25, a line cook at a restaurant downtown. They'd fallen in love despite everything: the racial divide, the class difference, his family's fury. His family had forbidden the relationship, threatened to disinherit him. In 1984, they'd forced him to marry Diana Blackwell, daughter of another wealthy family. A suitable match. But William had continued to see Grace in secret. He'd given her money to open her own restaurant. Grace's Place had become her dream. A small, warm restaurant serving soul food to working-class families. Then came the newspaper clipping that made Maya's blood run cold. Local restaurant owner killed in car accident. Grace Williams, 41, owner of Grace's Place, died Tuesday night when her car was struck by a drunk driver on Lake Shore Drive. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Williams is survived by... The date was October 15, 1998, 27 years ago. Pinned next to the article was a photograph of William at a funeral. He looked destroyed, hollow, a ghost. Below it, in William's handwriting, I should have fought for her. I should have been brave enough to choose her. I failed her. Maya's vision blurred with tears. She moved along the wall, following William's life after Grace's death, his son's death in 2005, his growing distance from Diana and Brandon, his gradual withdrawal from the world. Then at the far end of the wall were recent photographs of Maya. Her heart stopped. They weren't creepy or invasive, just candid shots probably taken from across the street. Maya walking into Sunrise Diner. Maya serving customers. Maya sitting on the steps outside during her break, drawing in a sketchbook she'd brought one day. Next to the photos was a note in William's handwriting, dated 3 months ago. Her name is Maya Johnson. She reminds me of Grace, not just the way she looks, but the way she carries herself. Proud, kind, strong despite everything trying to break her. She cuts my toast without being asked. She talks to me like I'm a person, not an inconvenience. She has Grace's heart. I failed Grace. I let my family dictate my life. I chose money and status over love, and it destroyed us both. I won't fail Maya. Below that, another note dated just 1 week ago. I am dying. The doctors say weeks, maybe days. I have made my arrangements. Maya will inherit what Grace should have had: security, freedom, a chance to follow her dreams without being crushed by poverty. Diana and Brandon will be furious. They will try to destroy her, but I have given her the tools to fight back. Marcus will help her. The diner is hers, bought with my money, but it will be filled with her heart, just as Grace's Place was filled with Grace's heart. This is my final act of love. Not for Maya, we barely know each other, but for Grace, for the woman I loved and failed, for the life we should have had. Maya sank to the floor sobbing. She understood now, all of it. William hadn't left her money because she'd been kind to a lonely old man. He'd left her money because she was Grace, or as close to Grace as he could find. A black woman with dreams and dignity crushed under the weight of a system designed to keep her down. He'd given her what he should have given Grace 30 years ago: freedom, security, a chance. And now Maya carried the weight of that gift, the weight of Grace's unlived life, the weight of William's guilt and regret. The weight of a love story that had ended in tragedy, and a second chance he was giving to a stranger because he couldn't give it to the woman he'd loved. Maya sat on the floor of William Thomas's study, surrounded by the ghosts of his past, and cried for all of them. For Grace, who died before her time. For William, who'd spent 40 years living with regret. And for herself, a girl who just wanted to be kind, and now found herself holding the broken pieces of someone else's love story, wondering if she was strong enough to honor it. Maya stood outside Sunrise Diner at 5:45 a.m. the next morning. Her hands were shaking, not from the cold, though it was freezing, but from fear. She owned this building, the diner, the land, $7 million worth of property, and she had no idea what to do with it. Through the window, she could see Harris unlocking the front door. Jake was already in the kitchen prepping for the morning rush. Sandra wouldn't arrive for another half hour. Maya took a deep breath and pushed through the door. The bell chimed. Harris looked up. His face went pale. Maya, good morning. He'd never said good morning to her before, not once in 4 years. Morning, Harris. Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. She untied her coat and hung it on the hook by the door. Her coat, her hook, her diner. The thought made her dizzy. Listen, Harris cleared his throat. He looked like he might be sick. I need to talk to you about what happened yesterday. Okay. I sold the diner 8 months ago. Some company AP Holdings or something. They offered me $2 million, way more than this place is worth. He gestured around the worn-out diner. I thought they were going to tear it down, build condos or something. They kept me on as manager, kept everything the same. I had no idea I didn't know Mr. Thomas owned it. I swear. Maya nodded slowly. Marcus had explained this part. William had bought the diner through a shell company specifically so no one would know. It's okay, Harris. And now you, Harris swallowed hard, you own it, which means you own my contract, which means you're technically my boss. He looked like the words physically hurt to say. I guess so. So are you going to fire me? The question hung in the air. Maya could see real fear in Harris's eyes. He had a wife, 3 kids, a mortgage. She'd heard him on the phone enough times to know his life wasn't easy either. No, Maya said. I'm not firing you. Harris's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. Jesus. Thank you. But things are going to change around here. His expression shifted, guarded now. What kind of changes? Before Maya could answer, Jake came out of the kitchen. He stopped when he saw her wiping his hands on his apron. Maya. His voice was careful. You okay? I'm fine. So it's true. You inherited... Yeah. Maya's throat tightened. It's true. Jake studied her face. Then he nodded. All right. What do you need from me? The simple question, no judgment, no jealousy, just support, almost made Maya cry. I need you to keep cooking, she said. Same as always. Can you do that? Course I can. Jake smiled. You're still the same Maya who showed up here yesterday. Money doesn't change that. If only that were true. Sandra arrived at 6:15 late as usual. She stopped dead when she saw Maya behind the counter going through receipts with Harris. Oh, Sandra's voice was cold. You're back. I work here, Maya said. Do you own here? Sandra grabbed her apron, tying it with sharp, angry movements. Must be nice. Serving coffee for a few months and suddenly, you're a millionaire. Sandra, what did you do, Maya, seriously? What did you do to that old man to make him leave you everything? The accusation hit like a slap. Maya felt heat rise to her face. I didn't do anything. Right, a random waitress inherits $7 million because she was nice. That's what we're supposed to believe. I cut his toast, Maya said, her voice shaking. I talked to him. I treated him like a human being. That's it. Bullshit. Sandra leaned against the counter. You must have done something. Flirted with him. Made him promises. Old men are easy to manipulate when they're lonely. That's not what happened. Then why you? Why not me? Why not Jenna? We all served him at some point. Because I was the only one who was kind to him. Maya's voice rose. You all treated him like trash, like he was worthless. I was the only person in this entire diner who gave a damn about him. Silence. The other staff members, Jenna 2-line cooks, had stopped working and were watching. Sandra's face flushed red. So what, you think you're better than us now? You think because some old white man gave you his money that makes you special? I never said that. You didn't have to. Sandra ripped off her apron and threw it on the counter. I'm not working for someone who slept her way into a fortune. Sandra. Harris barked. That's enough. Screw this. I quit. Sandra grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Wait. Maya's voice stopped her. You don't have to quit. I'm raising everyone's salary by 30%, including yours. Sandra turned slowly. What? 30% raise for everyone, effective immediately. Maya looked around at the stunned faces. Plus health insurance. Real health insurance, not the junk plan Harris has been giving us. And 2 weeks paid vacation. Dead silence. You're serious, Jenna whispered. Yes. Maya's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "This diner made Mr. Thomas successful once. It's going to do it again. But I can't do it alone. I need all of you." Sandra stared at her. For a moment, Maya thought she might apologize, might take back the awful things she'd said. Instead, Sandra laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "You think you can buy us by our loyalty. I think you deserve to be paid fairly for your work." "What I deserve," Sandra's voice dripped with venom, "is to not have to watch some gold digging. Get out." Everyone turned. Jake stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, his expression thunderous. "You heard me, Sandra. Get out. You can take your raise or you can leave, but you don't get to stand here and trash Maya." "Oh, so now you're her bodyguard. How sweet." "I'm serious. Out. Now." Sandra looked around the room, waiting for someone to back her up. No one did. She grabbed her purse. "Fine. Enjoy your blood money, Maya. Hope it's worth it when everyone finds out what you really are." The door slammed behind her. Maya stood frozen, heart pounding. She felt like she might throw up. "Hey." Jake's voice was gentle. "You okay?" No, she wasn't okay. She was terrified, overwhelmed, drowning in responsibility she never asked for, but she nodded anyway. "Yeah, I'm okay." The first phone call came that afternoon. Maya was in the back office, her office now, trying to make sense of the diner's financial records when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Miss Johnson." The voice was smooth, male, unfamiliar. "My name is Richard Vance. I'm calling on behalf of Brandon Thomas." Maya's stomach dropped. "How did you get this number?" "Mr. Thomas would like to speak with you about reaching a settlement regarding his grandfather's estate." "A settlement?" "Mr. Thomas is prepared to offer you $500,000 in exchange for relinquishing all claims to the properties and assets left to you by William Thomas." $500,000. That was more money than Maya would ever see in her life under normal circumstances. It was also a fraction of what William had left her. "Tell Mr. Thomas no thank you." Silence on the other end. Then Miss Johnson, "I don't think you understand the situation. The Thomas family has considerable resources. They can make this very difficult for you." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality. Legal battles are expensive, time-consuming, stressful. You're a working-class woman with no legal experience and limited resources. The Thomas family has the best lawyers in Chicago. They will contest the will. They will drag your name through the mud. And they will win." Maya's hand tightened on the phone. "Then I guess I'll see them in court." She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to set the phone down. 2 minutes later, a text message appeared. "You made the wrong choice. Brandon Thomas." The attack started within days. First came the private investigator. A man in a cheap suit started showing up at the diner, asking customers questions about Maya. How long had she worked there? Had they seen her with Mr. Thomas? Had their relationship seemed inappropriate? Then came the internet. Someone Maya had no doubt it was Brandon leaked the story to a gossip blog. Within hours, it was everywhere. Waitress inherits millions from elderly billionaire family cries foul. The article made Maya sound like a villain, a con artist. It mentioned her race 4 times in the first 3 paragraphs. Posted a photo of her in her uniform looking exhausted. The comments were worse. Another gold digger targeting old white men. She probably seduced him. Disgusting. Why do these people always think they're entitled to handouts? Maya read them late at night, sitting on the floor of her apartment, and felt like she was drowning. Her phone rang constantly. Reporters, bloggers, people offering to tell her story for a price. She stopped answering. Then came the lawsuit. Marcus called her at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. "Maya, I need you to come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Brandon has filed a petition to contest the will. He's claiming William was mentally incompetent and that you exerted undue influence." "What does that mean?" "It means we're going to court." Marcus became her lifeline. Every evening after her shift at the diner, Maya would go to his office. He'd teach her about estate law, fiduciary duty, legal precedent. She'd take notes in a spiral notebook, her hand cramping from writing so much. "You need to understand something," Marcus said one night, sliding a thick document across his desk. "Brandon isn't just fighting for money. He's fighting because his ego can't handle losing to someone he considers beneath him. Because I'm black. Because you're black. Because you're poor. Because you're a woman." Marcus's expression was grim. "He will use every weapon he has. He'll try to paint you as a manipulator, a seductress, a con artist. You need to be prepared." Maya looked at the document, Brandon's legal filing. It was over 100 pages of accusations, claims that she'd isolated William, that she'd manipulated him, that she'd taken advantage of his deteriorating mental state. All lies, but lies that sounded convincing on paper. "Can we win?" Maya whispered. "Yes. William prepared for this. He had psychiatric evaluations. He recorded video testimony. He documented everything." Marcus leaned forward. "But it's going to be brutal, Maya. They're going to attack your character, dig into your past, make you look as bad as possible. Are you ready for that?" No. She wasn't ready. She'd never be ready. But she thought about Grace, about the woman who'd lost everything because the man she loved wasn't brave enough to fight for her. She thought about William, about his regret, his guilt, his final gift to a stranger because he couldn't give it to the woman he'd loved. And she thought about Booth 7, about quiet mornings, about cutting toast into 4 squares, about 10 minutes of simple human kindness that had somehow led to this moment. "I'm ready," Maya said. She wasn't, but she would be, because she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Grace, for William, for everyone who'd ever been told they weren't good enough, weren't worth enough, didn't belong. And she refused to lose. The press conference was held at the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel. Brandon stood at a podium wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, his mother Diana beside him in mourning attire. Maya watched it live on her phone from the diner's back office. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the device. "My grandfather was a brilliant man," Brandon said, his voice breaking with practiced emotion. "A man who built an empire from nothing. A man who provided for his family for generations." He paused, wiping his eyes. The cameras flashed. "But in his final years, my grandfather was vulnerable, lonely. His mind was deteriorating, and someone took advantage of that." Brandon's expression hardened. He looked directly into the camera. "Maya Johnson is a waitress who served my grandfather breakfast a few times. Somehow, in the span of 3 months, she manipulated him into leaving her over $7 million. She isolated him from his family. She preyed on his loneliness, and she stole our inheritance." The reporters erupted with questions. Brandon held up his hand. "We have evidence, doctor. Philip Morrison, a clinical psychologist, has reviewed my grandfather's behavior in his final months." Brandon gestured to a gray-haired man standing nearby. "Doctor, would you share your findings?" The psychologist stepped forward, adjusting his glasses. "Based on documented behavior patterns, Mr. Thomas exhibited signs of cognitive decline consistent with early dementia. Social isolation, sudden changes in routine, inability to recognize family members, all classic symptoms. He recognized me every single day," Maya whispered to the phone screen, but no one could hear her. "In my professional opinion," the psychologist continued, "Mr. Thomas was not of sound mind when he executed his final will. He was vulnerable to manipulation by individuals seeking financial gain." Diana stepped forward, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. "My father-in-law was a proud man. He would never have wanted this. That woman," her voice trembled, "she took advantage of him. She deserves to be prosecuted." The screen cut to a news anchor. "Brandon Thomas has filed a lawsuit seeking to overturn his grandfather's will, citing elder abuse and undue influence. More on this story as it develops." Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Don't respond, don't say anything, let me handle this." But it was too late. The damage was done. Within hours, Maya's face was everywhere. Not the professional headshot she didn't have. The photo they used was from her shift at the diner, hair messy, uniform wrinkled, looking exhausted. Someone had circled her in red, added arrows, made her look guilty before she'd even been charged with anything. The hashtag #GoldDiggerMaya started trending. Maya made the mistake of reading the comments. "She looks exactly like the type to prey on old men. Why are we surprised this is what they do? She probably spread her legs, and he was too senile to know better. Ghetto trash trying to steal from a good family." Maya sat on her bathroom floor, scrolling through hundreds of comments, each one worse than the last. Her vision blurred with tears. They didn't know her, didn't know anything about her, but they'd already decided she was guilty. Because she was black, because she was poor, because the story fit a narrative they wanted to believe. The next morning, Maya found graffiti spray-painted across her apartment door in huge red letters, "Gold Digger." Her neighbor, an older white woman Maya had always smiled at, walked past without making eye contact. "Excuse me," Maya called after her. "Did you see who did this?" The woman paused, looked at Maya with cold eyes. "Maybe you should have thought about the consequences before you stole from that family." She walked away. Maya stood in the hallway staring at the words and felt something break inside her. The diner suffered too. Customer traffic dropped by more than half. The regulars still came, construction workers who'd known Maya for years, office workers who liked Jake's cooking. But the new customers, the ones who'd seen the news, stayed away. Or worse, they came specifically to harass her. A woman in her 50s walked in one morning, made eye contact with Maya, and spat on the floor. Disgusting. Then she walked out. Jake came out from the kitchen, his face dark with anger. Want me to ban her? From where? Maya's voice was hollow. We need every customer we can get. The diner's revenue had dropped 60%. Maya was burning through her inheritance just keeping the lights on and paying staff. Harris pulled her aside one afternoon. Maya, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but maybe you should consider settling. Take Brandon's offer, walk away. That's what he wants. Yeah, well, he's winning. Harris gestured at the empty diner. We can't survive like this, and neither can you. That night, Maya sat in her apartment, the graffiti still on her door, and called Marcus. I can't do this anymore. Maya. No, listen. I can't. Every day it gets worse. People hate me. They think I'm a monster. The diner's dying. My life is falling apart. Her voice cracked. Maybe I should just give it back. All of it. Let Brandon have it. Let this be over. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Is that really what you want? I don't know what I want anymore. I just want it to stop. Maya, if you give up now, Brandon wins. And more than that, William's sacrifice means nothing. Grace's memory means nothing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe William was wrong about me. He wasn't wrong. Marcus's voice was firm. I've been a lawyer for 30 years. I've seen thousands of people. William Thomas was many things, but he was never wrong about character. He saw something in you worth fighting for. Don't prove him wrong now. After Marcus hung up, Maya sat in the dark holding the letter William had left her. You have a good heart. Don't let them take that from you. She read it over and over until the words blurred. The turning point came from an unexpected place. Jake called a press conference of his own. No fancy hotel, just the diner during off hours with a handful of local reporters. My name is Jake Martinez. I've worked at Sunrise Diner for 12 years. He stood behind the counter, arms crossed, looking directly at the cameras. I've seen a lot of waitresses come and go. Most of them are nice enough, do their job, go home. Nothing wrong with that. He paused. But Maya Johnson is different. Jake pulled out his phone and showed a photo. This is from 8 months ago. I was short on rent. My kid needed medicine. I was going to lose everything. Maya gave me $400. That was her rent money, her grocery money. She gave it to me anyway. He showed another photo. This is Mr. Thomas. Every morning for 3 months, Maya served him breakfast. She didn't know he was rich. Hell, we all thought he was probably homeless. But she treated him with more respect and kindness than anyone else in that diner. Not because she wanted something, because that's who she is. Jake's voice grew harder. Brandon Thomas and his lawyers are calling Maya a gold digger, a manipulator. They're lying. I was there. I saw everything. And I'm telling you right now, Maya Johnson is the most decent person I've ever met. If she's a criminal, then I don't want to live in a world where kindness is a crime. The video went viral within hours. Then came the letters, dozens of them, from customers Maya had served over the years. From the construction foreman she'd remembered liked his coffee extra hot. From the single mother she'd once slipped extra food to when money was tight. From people she barely remembered, but who remembered her. Maya Johnson is a good person. She deserves this inheritance. The Thomas family should be ashamed. A local journalist wrote a piece titled, "Black Woman's Kindness on Trial, The Case of Maya Johnson." It went viral, shared hundreds of thousands of times. The narrative was shifting. Not everywhere, not with everyone, but enough. Enough that when Maya walked into the diner the next morning, there was a line of customers waiting, people who'd come specifically to support her, to buy breakfast, to leave generous tips. "We're with you," one woman said, squeezing Maya's hand. "Don't let them win." Maya cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes, but this time they were different tears. And then Marcus called with the final weapon. William recorded a video testimony 3 days before he died. "I'm releasing it tomorrow." Marcus's voice was calm. "Brandon's going to hate this." What does it say? Everything. Who you are, why he chose you, what his family did to Grace. Marcus paused. William knew exactly what would happen after his death. He prepared for it. Tomorrow, the world will hear his side of the story, and after that, Maya, this fight is going to look very different. Maya hung up and stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She looked exhausted, beaten down, scared, but still standing. "Don't let them take that from you," she whispered to herself. Tomorrow, William would speak one last time, and the world would finally understand. Again, Maya stood in front of the mirror in Marcus's conference room, hands shaking notes scattered on the table behind her. I can't. Marcus, I can't do this." "Yes, you can." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "From the top, you walk to the podium, you look at the board members, and you speak." Again. They'd been practicing for 2 weeks. Every evening after her shift, Maya came to Marcus's office and rehearsed her speech, over and over, until the words felt like sandpaper in her throat. Marcus had also taken her shopping, not to some fancy boutique where she'd feel like an imposter, but to a department store having a sale. They'd found a simple gray suit, professional modest, just $800. Maya had nearly fainted at the price, but Marcus had insisted. "You're going into a room full of people who think you don't belong there," he'd said. "You need to look like you do." Now, the morning of the shareholder meeting, Maya stood in that suit and felt like she was wearing a costume. "What if I forget everything? What if I freeze?" Marcus handed her a folder. "You won't. And if you do, everything you need is in here. The history of Thomas Global, the board member profiles, the financial records showing Brandon's debts, and William's video testimony." Maya clutched the folder like a life raft. "What if they don't believe me?" "Then we lose." Marcus met her eyes. "But I don't think we will, because you have something Brandon doesn't. You have the truth." The Thomas Global building was a steel and glass tower in the heart of the financial district. Maya stood on the sidewalk staring up at it, her stomach churning. Inside that building were 500 people, investors, board members, journalists, all of them waiting to watch her fail. "Ready?" Marcus offered his arm. "No." But Maya took it anyway. They rode the elevator to the 40th floor. The doors opened to reveal a massive auditorium-style conference room. Rows of seats descended toward a stage with a long table. Behind it, a huge screen for presentations. The room was already packed. Maya felt every eye turn toward her as she walked down the aisle. Whispers followed her like a wave. "That's her. She looks so young." "What is she wearing?" Brandon sat in the front row, flanked by lawyers. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost $5,000. His hair was perfectly styled. He looked like he owned the world. When he saw Maya, he smiled, leaned over to one of his lawyers, and said something. They both laughed. Diana sat 2 seats away, ramrod straight, her face a mask of cold fury. Marcus led Maya to seats near the back. "You don't go up until Brandon finishes his presentation. Remember, stay calm. Don't react, no matter what he says." Maya nodded, her throat too tight to speak. The chairman of the board, a gray-haired man named Robert Chen, called the meeting to order. His voice echoed through the massive room. "Today we address the petition filed by Brandon Thomas to contest the will of William Thomas and to call for new leadership of Thomas Global. Mr. Thomas, you have the floor." Brandon stood, buttoning his suit jacket. He walked to the podium with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, shareholders, ladies and gentlemen." Brandon's voice was smooth, practiced. "I'm here today because my family's legacy is under attack." He clicked a remote. The screen behind him lit up with a photo of William Old Frail staring vacantly at the camera. "This is my grandfather 3 months before his death. As you can see, he was not well. He'd stopped attending board meetings, stopped seeing family. He'd isolated himself completely." Another click. A timeline appeared showing William's declining participation in company affairs. "The medical evidence is clear. My grandfather was suffering from cognitive decline, early dementia. He was vulnerable, confused, and someone took advantage of that." Brandon's expression hardened. He clicked again. Maya's face filled the screen, that same exhausted photo from the diner. Maya Johnson, a waitress. No education beyond high school. No financial experience. No business background. Somehow this woman convinced my grandfather to leave her $7 million in just 3 months. The room erupted in murmurs. Brandon raised his hand for silence. "The evidence shows a pattern of isolation and manipulation. Miss Johnson was the only person my grandfather saw regularly in his final months. She had complete access to him. She controlled his environment. and she used that access to turn him against his own family. Maya's hands clenched in her lap. Every word was a lie, but Brandon delivered them with such conviction that even she almost believed him. I'm asking this board to do what's right, invalidate the will, return my grandfather's assets to his rightful heirs, and allow me to take my place as chairman of this company as he would have wanted. Brandon returned to his seat to scattered applause. About 60% of the board members were nodding in agreement. Maya felt sick. Robert Chen looked uncomfortable. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this motion? Marcus stood. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Miss Maya Johnson would like to address the board. The room fell silent. Maya's legs barely held her as she stood. The walk to the podium felt like walking to an execution. 500 pairs of eyes watched her. Camera phones came out. She heard someone whisper, "This should be good." Maya reached the podium. Her hands gripped the edges so hard her knuckles went white. For a moment she couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Then she saw Jake in the back row. He'd closed the diner for the morning to be here. He gave her a thumbs up. Maya cleared her throat. When she spoke, her voice shook, but it was audible. My name is Maya Johnson. I'm 26 years old. I'm a waitress at Sunrise Diner. She paused. And I'm proud of that. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. Mr. Thomas called me uneducated. He's right. I didn't go to college. I couldn't afford it. He said I have no business experience. That's true too. I've spent the last 4 years serving breakfast to people who barely see me. Maya looked directly at Brandon. But what Mr. Thomas didn't mention is that I never asked William Thomas for anything. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he had money. I just saw a lonely old man who needed help cutting his toast. She clicked the remote Marcus had given her. And the screen changed to show a photo of Grace Williams, young, beautiful, smiling in front of Grace's place. This is Grace Williams. In 1982, she fell in love with William Thomas. But William's family didn't approve. Grace was black. She was poor. She was beneath them. Maya's voice grew stronger. So William married someone they approved of, Diana Blackwell. And Grace died alone in a car accident, her dreams unfulfilled. Diana's face had gone pale. Maya clicked again. William's face appeared on the screen, a video recorded just days before his death. His voice was weak but clear. My name is William Arthur Thomas. I am recording this of my own free will in sound mind and body as confirmed by 3 separate psychiatric evaluations. The room went utterly silent. William's image looked directly at the camera. I am leaving the majority of my personal fortune to Maya Johnson because she reminds me of the woman I loved and failed. Grace Williams deserved a better life. I couldn't give it to her, but I can give Maya the chance Grace never had. He paused, his eyes hard. My grandson Brandon will contest this will. He will call me senile. He will attack Maya's character. He should know I am fully aware of his $3.2 million in gambling debts, his 2 failed business ventures, his complete inability to manage money or take responsibility. Maya clicked again. Emails appeared on screen, Brandon begging William for money. William's responses growing colder each time. You have squandered every opportunity I've given you. You will not get another cent from me. The board members were leaning forward now, reading. Brandon Thomas has no business leading this company. William's voice continued. He has the ambition of a king, but the judgment of a fool. I would rather see my fortune go to a stranger with a good heart than to family with none. The video ended. Maya looked at Brandon. His face was purple with rage. I'm not asking to run Thomas Global, Maya said quietly. I'm asking to honor William's wishes. I propose we create the Grace and William Foundation funded by 10% of this company's annual profits. Its mission will be to help people like me, people like Grace, people who work hard but can't get ahead because the system is designed to keep them down. She took a breath. I'll serve as director, but the company leadership should remain as William established it, not with Brandon, with the people William trusted. For 30 seconds, no one moved. Then the oldest board member, a woman in her 70s, stood up. She began to clap. Slowly, others joined her, one by one, until most of the room was standing applauding. Brandon shot to his feet. This is bullshit. His composure finally cracked. You people are going to believe some ghetto waitress over his actual family. Mr. Thomas, control yourself, Robert Chen started. No, Brandon stormed toward the stage. That lying bitch manipulated a senile old man, and you're all too stupid to see it. Security moved in. 2 guards grabbed Brandon's arms. Get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? They dragged him toward the exit as he screamed, "This isn't over! You hear me, Maya? This isn't over!" The doors closed. Silence fell. Diana sat perfectly still. Then slowly she stood. She looked at Maya, really looked at her, and for the first time Maya saw something other than hatred in her eyes. "He did love her more," Diana whispered. "William loved Grace more than he ever loved me." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "I knew. I always knew." She gathered her purse and walked out spine-straight heels, clicking on the marble floor. Robert Chen cleared his throat, all in favor of accepting William Thomas's will as written and establishing the Grace and William Foundation. Hands went up across the room, nearly unanimous. Motion passes. Maya's knees gave out. She caught herself on the podium, tears streaming down her face. She'd won. Against all odds, she'd won. 6 months later, Maya stood across the street from Sunrise Diner, holding a cup of coffee, watching the morning sun paint the building gold. It looked different now. The faded sign had been replaced with a new one, hand-painted warm colors, the same name but refreshed. The windows sparkled. Through them, Maya could see customers filling every booth, every table. The renovation had taken 4 months. New kitchen equipment, new floors, fresh paint, air conditioning that actually worked. But Maya had been careful to keep the soul of the place intact. This wasn't some trendy gastropub. It was still a diner, still a place where working people could afford breakfast. She pushed through the door. The bell, the same bell, chimed. "Morning, boss," Jake called from the kitchen. He wore a chef's coat, now embroidered with Executive Chef on the chest. His salary had tripled, so had his smile. Harris waved from behind the register where he was training a new hire. He'd been promoted to general manager, overseeing 3 new locations Maya planned to open. He'd cried when she told him. Actually cried. Even Sandra was back. She'd shown up 2 months ago, knocked on Maya's office door, and said simply, "I'm sorry. I was wrong about you. Can I have my job back?" Maya had hired her on the spot. Now Sandra approached carrying a tray of coffee cups. "Booth 7 is ready." Maya's heart squeezed. She walked to the back corner where Booth 7 sat exactly as it had been. The vinyl was still worn, mustard-colored leather. She'd refused to replace it. But mounted on the wall above was a brass plaque. "Grace and William's Corner, where kindness is always welcome." On the table sat 2 coffee cups, one for Grace, one for William. Maya set down a small vase with fresh flowers, a ritual she performed every Monday morning. "Morning, Mr. Thomas," she whispered. "Morning, Grace. Hope you're proud." The menu had changed. Jake had researched Grace's old recipes, soul food classics that had made Grace's place famous in the 80s. Now Sunrise Diner served her fried chicken and collard greens alongside the traditional diner fare. Prices stayed low, $5 to $12 for most meals. Maya was making less profit than she could, but that wasn't the point. William had bought this diner because it reminded him of Grace's dream, a place where people could eat well without emptying their wallets. Maya was determined to honor that. The staff had full health insurance now, profit sharing, 2 weeks paid vacation, maternity leave, everything Maya had never had when she was drowning in debt. "You're going to go broke treating us this well," Harris had joked. "Then I'll go broke," Maya had replied, "but at least I'll sleep at night." The Grace and William Foundation had launched 3 months ago. The initial funding was $50 million, 10% of Thomas Global's annual profits, just as Maya had proposed. The board had been skeptical at first, but the publicity from the trial had actually boosted the company's stock price. Consumers loved the story. Ethical billionaire honors true love, sold well. The foundation had 3 pillars. First, design scholarships for young Black women from low-income families. Maya had personally reviewed applications from 200 girls whose stories sounded like hers. Girls with talent, but no resources. Dreams, but no path. She'd funded all 200 of them. Second, small business grants for Black-owned restaurants and cafes, places like Grace's Place that served their communities but struggled with startup costs. Third, medical debt relief. Maya partnered with hospitals to pay off bills for families drowning in healthcare costs, families like hers had been. Her mother's hospital bill paid in full within a week of the trial ending. Maya was the foundation's director, now earning $180,000 a year, more money than she'd ever imagined. But she still showed up at the diner every Monday morning at 5:50 a.m. to brew the first pot of coffee. "You don't have to do this anymore," Jake had told her. "You're running a $50 million foundation. You could hire someone else to work the floor." "I don't want someone else," Maya had said. "This is where it started. This is where I remember who I am." Her apartment was different now, too. She'd moved her mother out of the nursing home into a beautiful 2-bedroom on the north side. Her mother cried every day for a week, unable to believe they'd never have to worry about money again. Maya had gone back to school. 3 nights a week, she attended design classes at the Art Institute of Chicago. Her portfolio was growing sketches of evening gowns, wedding dresses, everyday wear that made women feel beautiful. Last month, she'd held her first exhibition, Grace's Dream. 30 wedding dress designs, each named after a woman who'd influenced her life. The centerpiece was called Grace, a simple, elegant dress that honored the woman who'd started it all. A buyer from a major bridal house had offered her a contract. Maya was considering it. Brandon's story ended less happily. The evidence Maya had presented, his gambling debts, his failed businesses, his emails begging William for money, had triggered a deeper investigation. Prosecutors discovered he'd been embezzling from Thomas Global for years, hiding the theft through shell companies. He was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 3 years in prison, reduced to probation, after he agreed to repay what he'd stolen. Diana had surprised everyone. 2 months after the trial, she'd written Maya a letter. "Dear Maya, I spent 40 years married to a man who loved someone else. I knew it. I pretended I didn't, but I knew. Grace was everything I wasn't, warm, genuine, kind. William looked at her the way he never looked at me. I was angry at you because you reminded him of her, because you had what I never could, his respect. I'm sorry for how I treated you. You didn't deserve it. Grace didn't deserve it. And William didn't deserve to spend his life in regret. I'm donating $500,000 to your foundation. It's the least I can do." Diana. One morning, Diana showed up at the diner. She didn't make a scene, just walked in, sat at booth 7, and stared at the plaque on the wall. Maya brought her coffee. Diana looked up, eyes red. "I drove past Grace's place once, years ago. I saw them together through the window. She was laughing. He was looking at her like she was the sun." Maya said nothing, just set down the coffee. Diana's voice broke. "I never made him happy. Not once in 40 years. Maya reached across the table and squeezed Diana's hand, just for a moment. Then she went back to work, leaving Diana to sit with her ghosts. But the most important change was booth 7 itself. Every Monday at 7:20 a.m., Maya reserved it for the elderly and lonely. Free breakfast, free coffee, and 10 minutes of genuine conversation. An older veteran named Frank came every week now. Maya learned he'd served in Vietnam and hadn't spoken to his kids in 20 years. She helped him find them. They reconciled last month. A woman named Dorothy, whose husband had died, came every Tuesday. She just wanted someone to listen while she talked about him. Maya listened. In 6 months, over 50 people had sat in booth 7. Some just needed a meal. Some needed medical help. Maya paid their bills. Some just needed to know someone cared. Jake had asked her once, "Why do you keep doing this? You've got millions now. You could hire someone." Maya had looked at booth 7, at the brass plaque, at the worn vinyl, at the ghosts of William and Grace sitting there in her memory. "Because this is what it was always about," she'd said. "Not the money, not the company. Just this. 2 cups of coffee and 10 minutes of kindness. That's what changed my life. Maybe it'll change someone else's." On the 6-month anniversary of William's death, Maya closed the diner for the day. She sat alone in booth 7 with 2 cups of coffee and a sketch pad. She drew William as she remembered him, bent old hands trembling, but eyes clear and kind. She drew Grace from the photographs, young, laughing, full of dreams. And she drew herself, not as she'd been exhausted, hopeless, drowning, but as she was now, strong, purposeful, free. At the bottom of the sketch, she wrote, "For William and Grace, you gave me everything. I promise not to waste it." Outside, the sun set over Chicago. The city glittered with lights. Somewhere out there, 200 girls were studying design because Maya had given them a chance. Dozens of families were sleeping peacefully because their medical debts were gone. Small businesses were opening their doors because someone had believed in them. And in a diner on Monroe Street, booth 7 sat waiting for Monday morning. Waiting for the next lonely person who needed to know they mattered. Maya finished her coffee, turned off the lights, and locked the door. Tomorrow she'd open it again. And the kindness would continue, because that's what legacy really meant. Not money, not buildings, not foundations with fancy names. Just one person helping another. 1 cup of coffee at a time, one four-square piece of toast, one moment of dignity offered to someone the world had forgotten. That was Grace's legacy. That was William's redemption. And now it was Maya's purpose. She walked into the Chicago night, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow, because she finally understood what William had been trying to tell her all along. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing in the world, and it never, ever dies.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.